All right, so welcome back. As we kickstart our second interview, we are talking about female genital mutilation. The reason we are doing this is because in our country, we are really racing against time to see whether we can beat our own deadline we set when President Uhuru Kenyatta led the country in committing to end FGM by the year 2022. This was in 2019 during the 25th International Conference on Population and Development. We were very ambitious as a country because this target is actually 8 years earlier than the global deadline that is supposed to be 2030. So can we beat our own deadline? What have we done so far? What ground do we need to cover? And that is what we want to talk about with my panel this morning. I'll just start by introducing them. This morning I'm hosting a panel of two gentlemen and a lady. I'll start with the far left there. The gentleman is Dr. Hassan Kinyua Omari. He's an Islamic scholar. Thank you so much, Sheikh, for creating time for us. And then we have Sadia Hussein. Sadia is an anti-FGM crusader. She's also the CEO of Brighter Society Initiative. Thank you, Sadia. And we have a young gentleman here, Leshan Kereto. Leshan is the founder and chair of TaretoAfrica. And of course, he is also the youth advisory panel of UNFPA in Africa. Thank you so much, Leshan, for creating time. All right, so I'll just start with you, Sheikh, yes. Because I just want to understand a little bit about how this vice, FGM, and religion marry. Because most of the time we've always talked about FGM in isolation, but you see FGM is deeply rooted in culture. FGM also has its inroads in religion. There is a stand that religion has on this. Most practicing communities have a say when it comes to this. I just want to understand from you, what does religion say about vices such as FGM?
Thank you so much, sister, and thank you so much actually to KBC and my sister Sadia, who has always pushed me each and every time to talk about this. When you talk of FGM in this country and everywhere in the world, you try to see and tend to see some people intertwining FGM with religion, meaning that people hide behind religion when they talk about FGM. And in this concern, I'll be speaking about Islam. You know, when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was leaving this world, he told us, "Inni dhahibun ila rabbi wa inni tarikum fikum thaqalaini kitab Allahi wa sunnati." I'm going back to my Lord, and I'm leaving with you two important things, which if you hold to them, you'll never go astray. Those two things are Kitab Allahi wa Sunnati, the book of Allah and my tradition. And actually with me today, I've come with this book, which is Quran and Hadith. This one of the books I've authored. It explains how we should interpret Quran, because the problem is that people misinterpret Quran. And then when you interpret the two, then you come up with Islamic law, and that's why now we also have this book, which we teach in the university, Islamic law. And in this book, we have discussed all these matters, because today we will not discuss it at a length, so anyone who wants to understand them, then they are in this book. Mm-hmm. Looking at Islam.
Does it have space for FGM? Does it give FGM a green light?
Islam
doesn't
give FGM a green light, because hadith of Prophet Muhammad is very clear. It says, La warara wa la dirara. This is the greatest principle, that there is no harm or reciprocating harm to any human being. So anyone undertaking FGM with all the harm we know about women, those people are going against God's will. Mm-hmm. And also Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he also taught us to follow what he's doing, because Allah tells us in the Holy Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. You have in the Prophet of Allah the best example. Now the question I ask people who talk about FGM being anchored in Islam, did the Prophet, peace be upon him, conducted FGM to any of his daughters? Mm-hmm. Fatima to Zahra, Zainab, Ruqayya, he never did it. Mm-hmm. So if he didn't do it to his daughters, why are we doing it to our daughters?
All right.
Then we also look at the wives of the Prophet, peace be upon him. There's none of them who was FGM'd. So why are we doing it?
Good question. And I'll come back to you, because you, as a religious leader, where do they get it from then? where do they get it from, that information that it's actually religion allows FGM to thrive? I'd like to get, also your sentiments as part of the opening remarks, Sadia, on that issue of religion vis-a-vis FGM. What narrative is being sold to girls, young girls in practicing communities? Some of them come from the Muslim community. What are they being told? What do the community believe in?
My name is Sadia Hussein, and I'm the CEO of Brighter Society Initiative. As he mentioned, yes, most of the scholars say FGM is not part of the religion. But unfortunately, from my community, yes, where FGM prevalence is at 94%, they do practice FGM because they feel it's a religious requirement. In fact, they call it Sunnah FGM. So now I think Sheikh has a big role to play by delinking FGM from religion and trying to clear the perception of the community. Because young girls, when I was being cut as an innocent girl, the first thing that made me cry for FGM is because I wanted purity. I wanted to purify myself, because you are told you are not clean. You cannot play with other girls, you cannot pray, there is some of the things, religious things you cannot do. So because you also want to fit in the religion, you want to fit in the culture, you have to go through FGM. And that's one of the most things that my community actually practice. One of the major reasons why they practice FGM is religion. They feel like it's a religious requirement, it's Sunnah to do FGM. And innocent girls today, some of them might be even going through FGM right now as we're speaking, because they believe it's a religious requirement. So I would still request, if he can clear that issue of Sunnah, I would really appreciate.
All right. I'm coming back to you, Sheikh, on that. You cried for FGM. That really broke my heart. And many girls right now, unfortunately, are in your position where, due to circumstances, they're pressured into begging and asking for FGM so that they can fit in, they can feel like they're full in the society. And I just want to get from your perspective as well, Leshan, yours is coming from a point of culture, not majorly religion, but a society where you come from. Culture has really made FGM thrive. Culture has made it acceptable. Tell me a little bit about what women and girls in your community go through when it comes to matters FGM.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Leshan, a proud Maasai, and I'm very, very glad to share my insights on what FGM is happening in my community. That is a Maasai community. So in terms of the Maasai, it's really, and it's almost coming on board with how it's being done in Islam. People are looking for places to fakely really legalize their own interests. People are bringing on board their own interests, like to put women down, to control their sexual activities, and that way they are fixing it in culture. Our culture has done that for a very, very long period. But now we are speaking about a new culture where young people are in charge, young people are leading this conversation. And the Maasais for a very, very long time have done this. But for now, we are really talking about a culture that will really make us better. A generation that is going to remove all those cultures that do not have any necessary evidence from the background, that is from the culture, and we are taking it out. And that way we've engaged in so many ways, especially with the elders. As you know, that the president was sometimes back in Samburu in March to declare, together with the Samburu elders, to end female genital mutilation in Samburu. And we had that conversation, and they were trying to weigh on what exactly is FGM benefiting us. We cannot continue with a culture just because it's everyone else did it. We do not have any evidence. There is no social or scientific evidence that FGM is helping us. So the Maasai community has for a long time done it, but now the conversation is changing. Young people, men are coming into really changing this conversation, and it was hard. But the elders are also seeing that, look at the repercussions that are coming on board. No culture will want their girls to be cut, then they go ahead and have maternal deaths. No culture will want their girls to bleed to death. No culture accepts that, and that is what the Maasai community is saying, and that is why all communities should come on board and actually learn from other communities, like the Pokomo, the Turkana. They are not doing it, and they are not different from us. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions. If you can hear some of them, they say that If a girl is not cut, then she will give birth to a disabled kid. There are women in the Maasai community who have not been cut, and they have come out to deliver kids who are okay, kids who are fine, and now the community is saying, well, we didn't have any evidence, so there's no reason to continue this conversation.
So the narrative is changing progressively, though. Let's go back to... They've talked about people are just looking for every slight opportunity to legalize. They say it's religion, it's part of culture, this is what makes it valid. Where do they even get this idea? And as a religious leader, what are you doing to seal some of these loopholes currently?
Thank you so much for this question. As my sister Sadia stated, there was a lady at Medina whose main work was circumcising women, meaning conducting FGM. Her name was Omari. And people went to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to complain, and some of them to ask, what do we do with this lady? Is that allowed? The Prophet called her and he asked her, what do you do? She explained. And then the Prophet, peace be upon him, told her, Shummi wala tahniki. Go and just prick and don't cut it. You know, when you look at Islamic law, there was no anything in Islam which was just prohibited once. Like, for example, alcohol, it was not prohibited once. It was said that if you take alcohol, then you cannot go to pray, the first one. So that people will be delinking and quitting alcohol slowly. Then at the end, it was prohibited. So the same way, the Prophet, peace be upon him, had already started prohibiting FGM. But he started in a way that he could not offend the culture. So he told the people, the woman, go and just prick, but not cut. But what we believe, and in Islamic deduction, if Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, will have lived longer than that year, he will have prohibited totally. But even when you talk about it, if they were doing what they are saying, just pricking, but no one do that. They go and cut the entire clitoris. This is the challenge you are seeing in this world, and that is why it is haram, because in Islam we are not allowed to cut human beings' body or deduct it, because Allah tells us in the Holy Quran, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have created human being in the best form. So the way we were created is the best form. So no one should go and remove any body part of any human being. When you come to male circumcision, that one is allowed because the Prophet did it and he talked about it. But female genital mutilation, we have to stop it, and we have to take care of our girls and make sure that anyone who does it, we just report him to police, and the police should take course, and the courts should jail these people. All
right. So what's your stand in terms of the active role you're playing to demystify this wrong notion, this wrong belief about FGM being allowed in religion? What are you doing practically as religious leaders to change that among even the Muslim community?
The first thing I've done, because of the literatures we have in our university, I've written documents, I've written articles, I've written books. If you look at this book, it says, it shows how we should deduct and stop misinterpreting Quran. That's why I'm talking of Quran and Hadith. And those Hadith on FGM are here to demystify and tell people not to follow them. And also in this one, Islamic law, I've also shown people how we deduct, showing that if Prophet Muhammad could be alive today, he could have prohibited it. And lastly, I thank Sister Sadia, because I've worked with her in almost all the 47 counties of this country to talk about against FGM, and I believe we are doing well, and God willing, we'll continue doing the same from today.
All right, Sheikh. I started with you mostly because I understand you really have to step out for a certain engagement. So thank you so much for creating time for us, and you'll just allow me to continue with the gentleman and the lady as you just you know, walk out. But of course, we're talking about matters FGM this particular morning, and in studio I've been talking to Sheikh Hassan Omari, an Islamic scholar, and Leshan Kereto, the founder and chairperson TaretoAfrica, Sadia Hussein, CEO Brighter Society Initiative. So as we continue, Sadia, you can just you know, occupy the space there. I'd just like to understand from you, Leshan. Leshan, you just jetted back from a very crucial conference that was discussing this matter. Tell us a little bit about this conference and some of the deliberations that you know, you came out with from that particular forum.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was able to go to Senegal on the 1st of November to join the Global Roundtable Youth Conference on FGM that was organized by the Joint Program for UNFPA UNICEF against FGM. And we were taken there by UNFPA Kenya. I was representing the Youth Advisory Panel of UNFPA, where I'm a proud member. And we were able to really join, together with my colleague, to join several other young people from different countries to come on board and share ideas and come on board with the Global Youth Consortium on FGM, where we are able to have a pool of young people who have resources, who bring on board their experiences to end female genital mutilation across the world. As you know, that female genital mutilation is well across different countries, and we had the presentations from different countries. We were proud to have a conversation where we really actually told a lot about what we are doing in Kenya towards ending female genital mutilation. Some of the outstanding presentations that we did is about the proud personal commitment by the President Uhuru Kenyatta, who outstandingly came on board to personally commit to end female genital mutilation by 22 next year. And people who are amazed at the conversation that we're having in Kenya, what the Youth Advisory Panel is doing to bring on board young people, build their capacity. After building their capacity, they give them a forum to speak, to share ideas, and that way also they go ahead and fund some of their ideas and activities. So we were able to share many of those, and we were able to come on board with the Global Youth Consortium on FGM, and then we were also able to interact informally. Each one of us engaged in creating the vision, in creating now the Dakar Declaration to end FGM. We have decided to end FGM by 2030, and this is our generation. As you know, this is the decade of action, and young people are the people who are deciding on what exactly we want to do. Our conversation was putting young people first on ending female genital mutilation, and I'm very, very proud that UNFPA Kenya has put us on the forefront, has trusted in us to give our ideas, and has empowered us, and is taking us into better conversation to make sure that we
Leshan, I'll come back to you. So young people are currently being brought on board. How is that crucial? You'll tell us in a little bit. Sadia, so by 2022, the President personally committed that we ought to have ended FGM in our country. Of course, the global deadline is 2030. Are we edging closer to that? Looking at the march we've done, do you think it's achievable?
I'll be optimistic. I will say yes, it's achievable. But if we really come together and all of us commit to end FGM, because ending FGM is not a one-man show. It's not something that can be done by only one organization or by only an individual or by just the government. It needs a collective responsibility whereby we all come together and say this, we have a problem, we acknowledge that there is a problem, and we all commit towards ending FGM. One more thing, in Kenya, the prevalence of FGM is at 21%. That's the national prevalence. And the number of survivors that live with the scars of FGM are over 4 million. My community alone, FGM stands at 94%. 94%. Then we have others with 84%, we have others with 86%, then we have 78%. All these, including his community, at 78%. So now the question is, 78%, starting with my community.
And these are figures that are in
currently,
yes. These are current figures.
These are current figures.
Yet we just have a few months to 2022.
Yes, and we have 22 hotspot counties where FGM prevalence is above the national prevalence. The lowest hotspot county has 22%, which is TaretoAfrica. It's above the national prevalence. So we are talking about counties that practice FGM higher than even the national prevalence. That's 22 counties. So now, coming to my community, 94% simply means 9 out of 10 girls have already gone through FGM. So, my dearest, if that is happening, then that simply means the 9 girls who went through FGM will again subject to their daughters.
Because, and the cycle continues.
Yes, exactly.
It's what others went through, so
how are we going to stop this cycle is for us to engage these survivors. For a long time, we talk about engaging the religious leaders, engaging the young people, engaging blah, 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 but we forget the victims themselves. the people who survived FGM are the people who are further subjecting to their daughters. For example, like myself, I'm a survivor of FGM, but I really protected and saved my daughters. I have 3 daughters. My firstborn is 13, second is 10, and the last is 7. So my 3 daughters are free from FGM. How are we building the confidence of other survivors to come in front of the camera and say, it happened to me, and what happened to me was wrong, and it should never happen to my daughter. And
let me just take you back. So what do you think is the biggest contributor to these high prevalence rates? We've done a lot as a country, a lot of campaign, anti-FGM campaign has been done in the country. We've invested resources and time in this. Why are we still at 94% and 98% and 70-something%?
Because we have forgotten the critical people that should have been involved, which are the survivors themselves. Because if we are talking about FGM is harmful, FGM is painful, but the person that it happened to her is not feeling that it was harmful. So how do we convince her that whatever happened to you was wrong? Majority of them, the 4 million we are talking about, I think not even 100 of them, 100 out of the 4 million are even saying what happened to me was wrong, or even trying to save their daughters. So where are the 3-point-something million women and girls? Where are they? That means we really need to build their confidence, and this is what I will honestly tell you. Majority of the survivors come from these, deep-rooted cultural or patriarchal places where a woman is not supposed to be heard, leave alone being seen. Women are not supposed to be heard. So if the culture says a girl should have gone through FGM, then they don't, that's an authority for them. They don't have to go against it. How do we build their confidence and tell them, speak out? Because if there is a man who is supposed to be involved, if there is a religious leader who is supposed to be involved, and the survivors themselves don't beg and tell them, what happened to us was painful, this is my personal testimony, sharing their own experiences. That's why next week, inshallah, Mungu akipenda, on Thursday, I'm hosting a survivors' voices, how to amplify survivors' voices on the media through the global media campaign. They have really supported me to speak in front of the camera. They built my confidence. How about the others? So we are trying to bring them on board.
Such stories should come out.
Exactly.
So that people can understand the impact.
This is the reality, my dear. We need to build the confidence of survivors, because currently 2 things are happening. Number one, as a young girl, I rushed to FGM. I fell into the trap of FGM because I was running away from the community pressure, the stigma. Now you are a survivor, you are exposed to the world. The moment you go to such conferences he's talking about and you say, I'm an FGM survivor, some people will say, oh, survivors are useless, you have went through FGM, you are no longer fit again in the global, you get what I mean? So there is another double stigma. So majority of survivors do not want to speak about FGM because they feel when they go to these forums, they are further subjected to another stigma, whether some people say, because they tie FGM to sexual whatever, they feel like they're no longer important. You get what I mean? Which is not even the case. We should end FGM because it's harmful. We have a lot of problems and complications attached to FGM, and we should end because of that. Not because now again men want pleasure and all that. I have a right to my body. I have to protect my body because I should remain as God created me. Not because someone wants something from me.
All right, Sadia. Leshan, as you come in also, she has really pointed, spoken very strongly about the campaign strategy should now move to the survivors. Let them be the one to tell the story and to speak of the impact. You also are driving a campaign that is strongly centered on the young population. Talk to us about the role of the youth in eradicating FGM.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the youth have a big role that they have played, are playing, and will continue to play on ending female genital mutilation. And I'll start by what Sadia has really raised on really taking care of the survivors. Personally, I really have a lot of contact with survivors, and we have conversations. That is what actually made me come into this conversation, because of survivors and the ways that young people are doing to take care of survivors. One is a psychosocial support. There are initiatives that have helped found, led by other young people, to try and counter this, the psychosocial effect, the stress, the post-traumatic disorders that are brought on board by FGM. Look at the bitterness that is brought on board to your mother because she put you through FGM. Earlier this year, we organized the International Day for Zero Tolerance Against FGM, the first ever conference we ever organized in my university. I was glad to be the founder and the team leader. We organized this, and we brought on board other mental health experts to bring on board who are young people, to talk to young people on how they can come up with initiatives to take care of this, of these survivors. And we had this conversation on how we can come on board with child protection rights, we can come on board with caravans, we can come on board with campaigns going into the grassroots. Later, next month, between 7th to 14th, we are going to with the Medical Missions Africa to East Pokot to go there and campaign. And I'll be leading an anti-FGM campaign in partnership with other organizations. And we are bringing university students to come on board. As we have a medical camp, we are going to lead a Pokot conversation with different, coming up with a dialogue with different people. These are some of the things that young people are doing.
Why should it young people? Why is it important to them?
It's important, first of all, because it's their generation. It's their generation. They are the people who own up this. It's their sisters, it's their girlfriends, their cousins, it's their colleagues, it's their classmates. These things that are being faced are theirs. Secondly, it's because we want a community where our kids, I do not have kids probably like Sadia, but I will get kids. But I want them to be able to be looked at in a way that they can stand out and say that female genital mutilation is not something we should do. And it's something that, as well as we take care of the survivors, we also look at our sustainable component to make sure that our conversation and what comes from the previous generation to our generation is based on social facts and scientific facts, so that we don't do things because we want to manipulate women for sexual purposes. That is not something we want.